Tribeca 2007 was like the beginning of the collapse of the old distribution model where you could make a film, go to a prominent film festival, sell the film, move on, and let someone else handle the distribution and marketing of your film. I made this film called Bomb It. I'm sorry, I have to be careful with the pronunciation because some people think I'm saying something else when I say the title. Bomb It was 95% crowdsourced. Crowdsourcing is when you're looking for talent outside of your immediate network. It usually then goes to using the internet to look for talent, labor, and materials that where normally you would only use your immediate network for that. Nearly all the people who worked on it came via Mandy.com, which is a internet labor resource site. And then, like a lot of our stills, we went to Flickr to find stills. Like we needed stills about artist revs, and it's very hard to find stills. We went to Flickr. We contacted those people. They gave us, we sent them releases. They said yes. We sent them releases. They sent it back. We found music that way through MySpace and through the internet in general. So you can start to see how crowdsourcing, can, help you.
I was in the midst of doing a traditional deal where you would typically, go to the American film market and try and do 2 to 3 territories in pre-sales and then cover off those contracts and then provide, say, a 20% equity piece. At the same market, I was talking to the same Spanish buyer. He basically said, Dave, it's all about piracy. It's a big issue. And if you could just somehow turn the pirate into a buyer, we'd be all back in business again, giving you full contracts to make these movies. And I said, well, that would be an act of piracy. And then if I could do that, what would I need you for?
What he talks about, what I talk about, are not separate at all anymore. That filmmaking is distribution, filmmaking is marketing, filmmaking is production, filmmaking is fundraising, that it's all part of the same process. If you're a filmmaker, obviously, except for if you're an experimental filmmaker that doesn't care about an audience, then you are immediately involved in distribution, or I like to term it connecting with an audience.
We started putting together a process to see if we could use crowdfunding and do it legitimately, actually allow people to purchase a film in advance, a copy of the DVD, without selling securities. So essentially what they were doing is these fans would just fundamentally buy a copy in advance of your movie. We built a platform which is called SOCAP, based on a fundamental principle we call social capitalism, where it's good to be social and it's also cool to make money. We built this platform and launched the Piracy Project, which is essentially the prototype film for our crowdfunding platform, using a system which people call a pyramid, whatever they want to call it. It's actually not. It's simply just a sales chain system where we turn the fans into sales agents for our project. They join the site and pre-buy a DVD, which then gives them the right to tell their friends and make a piece for actually selling the film to their friends. It's no different than how the studio would sell your film through markets and through retail and into distribution, but it's just at a micro level. We are doing the Piracy Project as a crowdsourced, crowdfunded experiment. The moment we're finished this project, we're going to allow people to use the platform for their own films and to basically use SOCAP to go out and finance in whole or a part of their film without incurring any debt. As a filmmaker, most filmmakers I've spoken to, they've said, the only reason we get into distribution is to try and repay a loan. But if you didn't have to repay a loan because the fans have already pre-funded it, is piracy really an issue at that point? Well, maybe it is, but does it really matter? Because you're not really worrying about paying back a loan or an investment. Our goal is to have 1 million fans at $25 to produce the largest crowdfunded film ever.
And I'll say this is where that integration, that kind of like integration of the production and pre-production process and distribution becomes very clear, that this is how, that you're engaging your distribution in your fundraising, and you're engaging your audience in your fundraising, and you're engaging your audience in the crowdsourcing, you're engaging your audience in all aspects. So it's not just necessarily the audience of the people that you want to sell to in a one-way street, but that you're creating an audience with a two-way street. You can use crowdsourcing in different ways all along the process, that there's actually, like for instance, if you need key art, you can crowdsource your key art on this site called CrowdSpring. I think this is brilliant, but until he makes it open to the public for you as filmmakers, there's other, you should check out Rekamovie, which is Timu's site, and from Finland, you should watch a film called Star Wreck, which was a sci-fi movie made by crowdsourcing, completely crowdsourced.
For what we're doing, of course, because it's the pilot project, we've actually decided to go out and do a very crowdsourced, crowd-funded application where we want the fans who are involved in our film to be actively engaged with it. If you've seen our site, our card, it's this little whale kind of logo. We built this kind of game within the system where people that crowdsource and do stuff, when we ask them to do it online, we issue points known as krill. And krill is what whales eat. If we think that something that you're going to do for us is worth 1 minute's time, like a vote, we give you 1 krill, okay? If we say, hey, draw us a picture of a robot because we're doing a sci-fi film, and if we use your robot, we'll give you a cash prize, but for everybody who submits a drawing of a robot, hey man, you know what, that's 2 hours worth of work, so guess what? We're gonna put 120 krill in your account. Cool thing is that you gotta be a member to play, right? And it's the cost of joining. But at the end of the game, there's a big grand prize. The person with the most krill wins 1% of the film's budget. The interesting thing about all this is that we were able to go to the SEC and say, well, hang on. If all of these people...
This is the SEC in the States or in Canada? Do you have an SEC
The SEC
too?
in the United States.
Okay.
We built it on the hardest securities model in the world. So it's like, okay, if all of these people are actually contributing to the film, they've already paid for their DVD in advance. That's one thing. They've bought a copy of the film. But if they're actually working on the film, that's sweat equity. So, you guys have all worked in films. How many of you have actually gone out when your friend has said, look, come work for me for nothing, I'll pay you out of the back end? Like how many? Yeah. So this is the exact same thing. This is an online version of this where we can actually track how much work is being done. And then what we can do for this, what we're doing is we're allocating 25% of every dollar goes back to the filmmaking crew, the producers, the writer, director team. But the other 75% of the film's net earnings, gross earnings actually, sorry, not net earnings, gross proceeds, producer gross receipts, actually gets distributed back amongst the fans based on how much krill they had. So the harder you work on our film, the more you get in your account. Now what you can use that revenue for on our site is for things like going into other film projects and supporting other filmmakers, so you're actually getting another piece of somebody else.
So they can't cash it out in cash.
At this time, you cannot cash that out, but we are working towards that because we have an argument that is equity. Now, for the first one, we're not going to allow that to happen because we have to make sure that we stay on side. But essentially, if you work really hard on our film and come out and do stuff, there's enough revenue for you available in your account to then support, say, 10 other artists, or use it to buy swag or buy an iTunes gift card. Think of it as a convertible rewards point like air miles. That's what it actually generates.